Welcome to the Gambia's Ministry of Defense, where dedication, strategy, and innovation ensure the security and stability of our nation. This documentary, brought to you by the Ministry of Information, highlights the Ministry of Defense's initiatives and achievements. Leading the Ministry of Defense, Permanent Secretary Mrs. Rohibite Dabo provides an overview of current and future projects, mandates, achievements, and challenges faced by the ministry.
The Ministry of Defense, and together with the Gambia Armed Forces, that is GAF, have developed a defense policy for the first time in the history of the Gambia. It was validated sometime last year and then was launched in August 2023 by His Excellency the President. Now, to implement the policy, we need to have a strategic plan, and the strategic plan is already developed. It is still under review to be finalized, and then once it is finalized, we'll have the validation done and it would be launched again. So that will facilitate the implementation of the policy. Now, all these activities that I'm going to list, we're doing based on the SSR, that is the Security Sector Reform, which did an assessment of the security sector and then came up with a strategy. And then from this strategy and the assessment, we felt it necessary to develop a policy for the defense sector, which we already did. We are also looking forward to reviewing our GAF Act, which is at the level of the Ministry of Justice. I think the bill is already drafted. The ministry has reviewed it, and it is at the level of GAF for their input. We have also in the plans to have the gender policy developed for the military. Right now, we have a team that is developing the veterans policy, as we have established a Department of Veterans Affairs established under this ministry to look into life after service of our men and women in uniform. I have to thank the team that worked on it. It was a collective responsibility for GAV and the ministry to ensure that it is done. And we have not limited it to the military alone. We invited some other institutions that are relevant, such as the public service and the ONS representations to be part of the drafting. We don't only want to see our men and women leave the service and then eventually become security guards. So what we want to do is provide them with the right skills so that at least when they exit their service, they can join, the civilian way of life and then, participate in this economy as any other person. Right now, we have some of them that are admitted at the university. Some of them are admitted in some of these skill centers, learning new skills. We will continue to develop capacities. We are looking at maybe having a revolving fund for them. Those who want to do business and engage themselves in productive activities can have funds that they can use and then repay back. So that is one of the issues that the policy is trying to address. The terms and conditions of service for the military, it is also reviewed, and it's right now with cabinet to be finalized. If you look at the OIC that took place some time back, you've seen the participation of our military. That's a big achievement. The CTBO was here. We organized a regional meeting and we have representations from many countries that attended. This was done together with the Ministry of Foreign Affairs. Towards the end of the year, last year, we had a meeting too organized here for BWC, which is the Biological Weapon Convention. That was organized by the ministry, who is the focal point. And it was a very successful meeting, and we had representation from Switzerland who were here, and then it was well coordinated. Still with the achievements, the Navy, we were able to get some vessels from the Spanish people, and right now they can patrol our waters, and they're working closely with the Ministry of Fisheries to safeguard our waters for illegal fishing, etc. Through the SSR, which has been in place since 2018, looking into the gaps we have in the security sector. And when the assessment was done, a strategy was developed, and there was a need for us to build capacity so that we can have a professionalized military. Getting them equipped is also very important. So we are trying to provide modern equipment for our military so that at least they will be able to function as expected. At the level of GAF, we have deployed many of our soldiers to areas where they are needed, especially where they are requested by the people of certain villages, especially those around the borders. So these deployments sometimes are not planned, and they can have effect on our resources. But most of the time, what would happen if you send them to these deployments, you take it to be temporal, but the villagers would always want them to stay there longer than necessary. Sometimes it becomes a permanent deployment, and that has a negative impact on our expenses when it comes to our budget. Talking about the deployments and the challenges we have when it comes to resources to ensure that we're able to give them accommodation, feed them, and then provide them with the necessities when it comes to being in those areas that they are deployed. There is never enough for any institution, but then, as I said, security is everybody's business and is very key, especially defense, and is very expensive and should be government owned. So we are yearning for more funding when it comes to the government coffers towards defense. If you look at the army, and the history, before it used to be an institution for dropouts, but now it has changed. We have seen, graduates joining the military because they know exactly what the military entails now. I think the exposure has to be there. We have to be giving out information relating to the military so that, people who are interested can know what they're getting into when they join the military. Right now, we are trying to recruit, and I can assure you that we even have more than what we required. So that shows that people are getting more exposure about what the military entails. And in the military, we have skill-oriented, cadres. We have engineers, we have lawyers, we have doctors. If you go to other countries, the military hospitals are the best hospitals, and that is what we want to have in the Gambia. We want to have a military hospital that can accommodate at least 300 beds, so that at least we'll have professional, medical doctors there to serve not only the military population, but the entire population when the need arises. Looking at the history of GAV or the military in the Gambia, with everything that have gone on with these junglers and stuff, it was like a negative impression. But then the narratives have changed. With the security sector reform, I think that is how they will gain their respect. And then doing what they're supposed to do. We were able to get some funding from government. I think it was in 2022. And then we started construction in Farafenye, which can accommodate, I think, 100 soldiers. And the construction is almost done. I think they just need to furnish it, but the building is completed. And right now we also have funding to fence our tiger watches. Tiger watches are our deployments within the borders. So that we got approval from National Assembly last year, and funds were allocated, and GAV is working on it. Very soon we'll have those tiger watches fenced, and that's a big achievement.
The Gambia Armed Forces is composed of various battalions. It is important to note that there is no conscription in the Gambia Armed Forces. The age for voluntary enlistment for both men and women is 18 years. The Chief of Defense Staff, Lieutenant General Mamat O.A. Cham, outlines the strategic vision and operations of the armed forces.
As per the 1997 Constitution, under Section 187 of the Constitution, the Gambia Armed Forces is tasked with what is called a primary and some secondary roles. Part of its main roles is the protection of the territorial integrity and the defense of the sovereignty of the state. We are also tasked to assist the President and the government in times of natural disaster or civil unrest at their request to restore law and order. We are also tasked under the Constitution to engage in meaningful development activities such as venturing into agriculture, health, education, and engineering to support the developmental efforts of the government so as to create a conducive national environment for the development of the country. Again, we have some secondary roles, which among other things includes to support in the creation of the youth service scheme, which we are doing. We are also tasked under the same constitution to support the communities in their various areas. To put things in perspective, I think first of all, I will start with the security sector reform, following the new dispensation, and following a lot of criticisms of the members of the armed forces in the past. When the new dispensation came into office, the first measures they took was to institute a security sector reform, in which to change the operations and the attitudes of members of the armed and security forces. As part of that, there has been a lot of education that has been carried out, and I'm happy to report that through command and training, members of the armed forces are now fully compliant with both the laws of the country and the various rules and regulations that are specific to the armed forces. I will state upfront that the armed forces is an equal opportunity employer. Every Gambian with the right qualifications and the clean record is entitled, if you so wish, to submit yourself for recruitment into the armed forces. A national institution like the armed forces, first of all, we will state clearly that in order to achieve the roles that we are tasked with, we need, first of all, to recruit and train the competent personnel, equip them and provide them with the required logistics so that they can discharge the various roles under the Constitution. Since the dawn of this new dispensation, the Gambia Armed Forces had ventured into a lot of capacity building, because without the right human resource, with the right competencies, most of the roles that we have to play nationally cannot be achieved. So the priority number one of the Gambia Armed Forces has been to upscale the competencies of its personnel, both the officers and the soldiers. In that endeavor, we have over the years trained a lot of the soldiers and the officers. 2018, the Gambia Armed Forces, as part of its restructuring program, had a training package for over 300 of the State Guard battalion personnel who were taken to the sister Republic of Senegal to train them in the various skills and techniques to protect and defend and secure the seat of government and the presidency. The Gambia Armed Forces, under the ECOWAS protocols, is required to contribute personnel to help the defense and security of the sub-region as part of the ECOWAS mandate. At the continental level, we are obliged as part of the African Union to also contribute to continental peacekeeping efforts. And globally, we are also a member of the United Nations, and we are required also to contribute as and when we are requested. So in preparation for such roles also, the Gambia Armed Forces had generated what we call quick reaction forces and had trained about 750 personnel in preparation for such roles, international peacekeeping. I also want to state that as part of the building of capacity for the soldiers and officers, we send our cadet officers to various partner military academies, notably Turkey, Morocco, Senegal, Nigeria, to train the young officers who come to join the armed forces. And we've been doing that at the middle level. The commanders require competencies that commiserate with the tasks and assignments that they are given. And in that endeavor, we've been sending the senior cadre of our officers to various command and staff colleges in Nigeria, Ghana, China, Turkey. As part of our gender policy, we have been trying to look at the specific needs and specific roles that the female element of our personnel have within the structures of the armed forces, and we calibrate training and also infrastructural development to cater for their needs. We adhere fully to the government regulations, like, for example, a female soldier who is married is entitled to the same maternity leave once she gets to that stage that another employee of the government is entitled to. In terms of deployments also, we deploy them to roles that take cognizance of their gender. Though we have a gender neutral perspective generally, because we believe that what a man can do, a woman can do. So therefore, in terms of training, in terms of opportunities, we try to give everybody the same access. But certainly, based on our nature, there are specifics that need to be calibrated towards them. And I can assure that in terms of numbers, the UN standard is that armed forces must endeavor to have at least 15% of their numbers as female. We have gone past that percentage, and in terms of deployment, both internally and outside for peacekeeping operations, they are also well represented. The Gambia Armed Forces is a tri-service organization, meaning it's composed of the Gambia National Army, the Gambian Navy, and the Republican National Guard. These forms the three services of the Gambia Armed Forces under the command and operational control of the Chief of Defense Staff. The Gambia National Army, his primary role is to protect the territorial integrity of the country against external aggression. Anybody who wants to attack the country using our land borders will encounter Gambia National Army. And that is why they are deployed across the length and breadth of the country. In all the regions, we have battalions and other smaller formations in strategic locations to ward off any threat of land invasion. The Navy is charged with the security and protection of our marine resources, especially our exclusive economic zone, meaning protecting the ocean approaches and making sure that our inland waters are also secured. Whilst the Republican National Guard have a role to play to protect our key national infrastructures like bridges, like government installations, and other critical national infrastructure. Against that also, they have also the police duties in terms of internal security operations. When the police needs support from the armed forces, because probably there is some preponderance of criminality in certain areas, then the Gambia Armed Forces deployed the Republican National Guard to support, because as per the Constitution, they have police rules and police powers to enforce. They have traditionally been deployed to protect the tourism sector and also to protect the seat of government. The State Guard Battalion is one element of the Republican National Guard, while the Guards Battalion in Fajara is another element. And together, these three arms constitute what is known as the Gambia Armed Forces. What I would say is that, like, the armed forces is created by the Constitution. And we have a saying in the army that he who takes you to the task must see you through it. Meaning it is a constitutional creation to create the armed forces. And creating an armed forces, of course, means that you must provide the required logistics and other financial requirements. Annually, the Gambia Armed Forces, through the budget call cycle, is also required to present a budget to the Ministry of Finance for consideration, like all other ministries, departments, and agencies. And in it, we cater for the pays and allowances of the soldiers, as well as the foreseen operational expenses of the armed forces. Most of the time, of course, being a resource-strained country, the requirements are more than what is available. But we cater for operational expenditures, like if there is a request from civil authority because of needs, then, under a critical inability of the internal security troops or forces to handle, that is then and only then will the armed forces be required to support them. If that is done, then we will calculate what the quantity of force is required and the duration in which they have to stay there. What that would determine the logistic requirement and other operational financing. We will present a special operational budget to the Ministry of Finance through the Presidency, the Commander-in-Chief, for consideration and provision of the resources. Like you ask, most of the time we do not differentiate between what is provided for in our normal operational budget and those specific requirements. But we know that as and when there is a need to deploy the armed forces, the required logistics will be provided. Of course, limited by what is available in the national budget. Just to highlight on that point, over some years ago, there had been a lot of challenges in our borders, especially in the north, where, a place like Kirpate used to be prone to banditry attacks after every Lumo or weekly market day. And the citizens requested the government for a deployment of a contingent of the armed forces, which we did. That was not part of the normal operational deployments, and it required some extra budgetary allocation. By and large, it was a little bit challenging, but over the period, we are able to rise to the occasion and provide the quantum of force that was required for the protection of the citizen in that area. And since then, it is part of our normal deployments. In Berending also, around Gunjur, there was a time when there was some misunderstanding between the communities over land. And it required the deployment of the armed forces to make sure that we interpose between the communities until such a time that they can adjudicate the matter through the courts. That was also done. Fonyi Kansala region of the Gambia was challenged security-wise due to the conflict between the members of the Senegalese armed forces and the MFDC. It created some displacements along the border villages and communities. The Gambia Armed Forces was able to raise an appropriate size force named Operation Wula Kukung, were deployed in the region to patrol and serve as an interposition force between the Gambian security and the operations of the Senegalese armed forces on the other side. And that stabilized the region and provided the much needed security and stability for the people living in that area to go back to their normal lives, and then the children to go to school. And we're happy to report that in all these instances, the Gambia Armed Forces was able to restore normalcy.
The development and expansion of the Gambia Armed Forces functions arose following the 1994 change of government. The 1997 Constitution grants the Gambia Armed Forces additional mandates in response to evolving roles in traditional military functions. These mandates and the critical relationship between the military and civilians includes but not limited to
the role of the Gambia Armed Forces, just like many other armed forces in the world, is to protect the sovereignty and territorial integrity of this country against any external aggression. Our constitutional mandate covers primary and secondary functions. And among the secondary functions is the need to maintain cordial civil-military relations. What this actually means is that some of our operations have to be focused towards ensuring that we maintain a very cordial relationship with the civil population. And since the dawn of the new dispensation in 2017, the Gambia Armed Forces has implemented several measures aimed at ensuring that we maintain cordial civil-military relations. And key among some of these activities is the formulation or constitution of what is called battalion civil-military coordination teams. And what these battalion civil-military coordination teams do in each of the battalions and our deployments across the country is to support the civil community in most of their community development work. More often than not, you see when there is a call for cleansing exercises and also some community work in our various deployments. So we go about with our troops, cleaning cemeteries, cleaning roads, cleaning communities, and also supporting the youths and women folk in most of their community endeavors. Additionally, also, we have other areas of intervention that is aimed at enhancing the relations with the civil population. Some of our intervention areas in national development, such as in the area of medical support, agriculture, education, and engineering. So we use these developmental areas to enhance our civil-military relations. For example, when it comes to the medical area, most of our clinics are frequented by our civilian counterparts or colleagues. In that, there was a statistics or a research that the Gambia Armed Forces conducted, and it was observed that 67% of most of our medication go out towards supporting our civilian brothers and sisters outside uniform. The reason why we're doing this is because we believe that it will help us cement the relationship that exists between us and the civil population. Coming to the engineering corps, the Gambia Armed Forces Engineering Corps has been used to support most of the community development works, both at the level of the government and also civil institutions. A case in point is in 2021, the Gambia Armed Forces Engineering Corps was tasked to refurbish the Independence Stadium in Bakau. This was with a bid to ensure that the stadium was ready and fit to be used to host the presidential inauguration of 2021. We have also extended work through the engineers by refurbishing the Carnifing General Hospital and also other community works that the Engineering Corps has been used to provide assistance to. The veteran policy is a policy that is being developed at the level of the Ministry of Defense. The aim of this policy is to cater for our retiring soldiers and officers who exit the armed forces so that they would have a meaningful life after service. Once in the armed forces, the policy will ensure that members of the armed forces are accorded opportunities in the area of skills training that will be meaningful to them when they leave the military service. Over the years, we have observed that if you don't have such a policy, people reach the age of retirement, and because they don't have a skill, they don't have a trade, for them to leave is always a challenge. So with the coming into force of this veterans policy, it will encourage or even motivate people to even yearn for retirement, because at the end of the day, after having given your service to your country, it is also worthwhile that you also go out to also find a living for yourself. So the veteran policy is a way of motivating and also encouraging members of the armed forces and also supporting them once they retire from the armed forces. The veterans policy, I believe, is long overdue because the Gambia Armed Forces has clocked over 30 years now in existence. So, and usually military service is usually 12 years minimum. So there are people, once they reach, once they serve 12 years, they will want to voluntarily discharge or retire. So the policy would help them to be able to continue or transition into civilian life with meaningful and life-saving skills in, be it agriculture, and other skills that they would be able to support themselves with. For the case of the Republican National Guard, I would like to state that they also have police functions and powers, in that they will be able to come to the aid of the internal security forces, for example, in times of civil disobedience and crisis. A case in point is the ongoing road clearance that we see being embarked on by the government. The forces that are accompanying the team that is going about enforcing this, this directive are members of the Republican National Guard that are dressed in blue berets. This is because it is part of their constitutional mandate to take part in these internal security operations. in that the Constitution empowers them, just like the police, to get closer to the civil population at the request of civil authority.
The Ministry of Defense, through its dedicated forces, is committed to defending the nation and advancing the Gambia's security and stability. Together, we are building a safer, stronger future for the Gambia, our homeland.
For the general public, the advice I would give is to look at the armed forces as a reformed armed forces that is out there to protect and safeguard the territorial integrity and sovereignty of this country. Since 2017 to date, the armed forces has embarked on tremendous reform and transformation in that we have tried to bridge the communications gap between us and our civilian counterparts. And also we have had a great deal of cooperation and collaboration with the media fraternity since 2017 to date, because we believe that all of us have a stake in the development of this country. So I would want to call on the members of the public and also the Gambians in general to support these armed forces and know that this is an armed forces that is for all Gambians. For the general public, the advice I would give is to look at the armed forces as a reformed armed forces that is out there to protect and safeguard the territorial integrity and sovereignty of this country. Since 2017 to date, the armed forces has embarked on tremendous reform and transformation in that we have tried to bridge the communications gap between us and our civilian counterparts. And also we have had a great deal of cooperation and collaboration with the media fraternity since 2017 to date, because we believe that all of us have a stake in the development of this country. So I would want to call on the members of the public and also the Gambians in general to support these armed forces and know that this is an armed forces that is for all Gambians.
I want to emphasize and recognize the efforts that are currently being done by the government to improve the living and working conditions of the members of the armed forces in terms of revising the terms and conditions of service for soldiers and officers. That is almost completed, and when implemented will improve the pay and living and working conditions of the soldiers. To the Gambian citizens, I want to emphasize that the armed forces is a republican armed forces, meaning we are tasked to serve the citizens of this country. One of the former presidents of the United States had said, John F. Kennedy, that citizens should not ask what their country should do for them, but what they can do for their country. If we all join efforts and work diligently, maybe the good life that we all wish for ourselves will be very soon attained. On that note, I want to thank everybody and to wish everybody a peaceful and progressive society.
These are all things that we have been doing, and then we're looking forward to do more. Anything we're doing for the military, we're doing for ourselves, because they're here to serve us. So we have military for the people and to the people. And we want the general public to always show appreciation of their service and then commend them whenever they see them anywhere. I think that would boost their morale and then would help them to perform to expectation.
This message is brought to you by the Ministry of Information as part of its public consultation and popularization of the government agenda initiatives.